Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augmented Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I'm your host as usual. And obviously today is the Wednesday's episode. This is episode 76 of the show. And obviously we have a guest. Took a little bit of time to get this all figured out, but it's definitely going to be nice because a lot of you guys wanted me to, I wouldn't say redo the episode, but like just get another person's perspective on it. Cause a lot of you guys don't seem to like my take that much on the AirPods Pro. And like we mentioned, today's episode is going to be over the AirPods Pro. But I'm not doing it alone because, like we mentioned, we do have a guest. So it's not Juan this time. So I know you guys really like Juan. But it's someone new, and it's, a new friend I made. So I'm going to let him introduce himself, and, we can go from there.
All right, man. Hey, so my name is Jeff. On YouTube, also known as Jefe Reviews. And I mostly do audio product reviews, true wireless earbuds, headphones, and things like that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much straightforward. I'm going to leave a link to Jefe's channel in the description below so you guys can go check him out and, see what you like, check it out. But obviously, like we mentioned, we're going to be talking about the AirPods Pro. And, as I stated before last time when we did the episode over AirPods Pro, I personally haven't used them. I have people that have used them and, they've let me try them out, but, not for extensive period of time. But Jefe actually has. So I'm going to let Jefe, decide where he wants to go with this conversation. We can just go from there.
Oh, all right. Yeah, no worries, man. Yeah, so, some people, everybody has different takes on them. And it's been just like anything else, just like AirPods and just like anything else. The fact that audio kit, first of all, is very subjective because we all hear things differently. We all have different preferences. We all have even different comfort levels. So, with me, like, let's say I had the original AirPods. I think they were the AirPods 1.5 or something like that. But it was, for me, the sound quality was because they were open, but they didn't fit me. They fit one ear. They fit one, I think it was my left ear, but they wouldn't fit in my right ear, as in, if I even slightly move my head, it would just fall out. So it was a no-go for me. But a lot of people loved them. Obviously the best-selling earbuds of all time. So it's like, yeah, so they worked for a lot of people. They just didn't work for me, and that plus the poor sound quality for me. It was a no-go. For for phone calls, they're great, but I don't make a lot of phone calls. So for me, that's just, I concentrate on sound quality, so it wasn't a go for me. Move forward to the AirPods Pro, and they addressed my main gripes with the original AirPods, which was sound quality. So they did address that. Battery life improvements, obviously, as well. So for me, I like them. Are they the best true wireless earbuds out there? No, they'll probably sell more than everybody else, but for sound quality, for battery life, they're definitely not the king. But for a lot of people, especially your average type users or just casual listeners or people who just want to watch YouTube videos or whatever it is, or have phone conversations, they're gonna be perfect for that kind of thing. So
yeah, I think that's kind of something I even harped on in my own video when I did the original discussion, that some people got mad at me when I originally said, like, the only thing they were good for is just casual listening and phone calls. That's all AirPods were ever good for. And and some people got mad at me and they're like, objection. I'm like, I'm willing to listen, but at the same time, it's kind of hard to argue because that's kind of how they position the AirPods. They're never going to position, I know even with the AirPods Pro, they try to position them as like professional listening and everything. And there's some people, that have talked about using them professionally. Like I know Henny the Business has done a video saying he's like trying them out using for, mixing and everything. And a lot of people try to use that for defense of using them as professional tools, but I'm like, well, it's a very subjective thing, because it's the same thing I tell people when I talk about audio, that audio is just a subjective thing in general, because what I think is great to me is probably not going to be great to you, because we all hear things differently. Like to me, especially like if an example in my case, that I just bought my new DT 770 Pros. To me, they sound incredible and I love these things. And, same thing as like a lot of people told me, like even my friend Edgar, who's an audio engineer, who mainly is the one who gives me advice when I'm buying audio gear, is, because I have my Sennheiser 280 Pros that I use for recording and tracking. And then obviously I use the 770s now for editing the show. And Edgar even told me I like the 770s more, but at the same time the 280s are also great. But that's why, somebody always says that when they give recommendations is, I like these, but these are, also good. And I think that's kind of something where when we think of AirPods, especially because a lot of my friends even said the same thing, and a lot of people on my college campus have said the same thing, they just don't care. Like, they don't care if they don't sound amazing. They don't. Like, I could let them use my 770s and drive them to the fullest they can, and they still wouldn't care, because it's just how it is. It's personal preference. And even with your time, because I know you posted a review talking about them and have done multiple comparisons about them. Like, where do you think, like, we kind of alluded to a little bit, like, where do you think they overall stand in truly wireless though?
I mean, if I had to give them a ranking, in taking everything that I've tested into account, regardless of price, they would for me be in the top 5, probably maybe middle of the pack. It could be number 4, most likely like a number 3. Sound quality, they've been beat. Battery life, they've been beat. So it comes down to really like what's most important to me personally. So for me, it's going to be sound quality number 1, battery life number 2, connectivity, and comfort. So after that, microphones. But microphones are super important to so many people, but for me, it's just not. It's not. So, but that's just, my personal opinion. But yeah, to me, I would say they're probably going to be in the top 5 best out there that you can buy. But definitely not the best. They're going to be the best for a lot of people, but for me personally, no.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of something too that we should take into account is, obviously, yes, for people in the Apple ecosystem, yes, they're obviously considered the best in class, which, but also it's the Apple ecosystem, because, connectivity for us may not be so big, neither are microphones, but to other people they are. And because of that, that's why people like using them. But at the same time, in terms of sound quality and everything, which I say it's also weird that they made the AirPods Pro, but then they also made the Beats Wireless Pro at the same time. And I know a lot of people like how the Beats sound more than the AirPods, which people saying Beats sound good to begin with is a little bit jarring, but I'll give Beats that, they did a pretty good job with the Beats Wireless Pro. Like in my case, like for me, like my 2 pair of wireless earbuds, not truly wireless, but at least wireless, are my Jaybird X4s and then my Bullets Wireless 2. Like I'm preferably more inclined to use my Bullets Wireless 2 more now, because one, they have better battery life, at least more than double of what my X4s have. And at the same time, they're also better connectivity for my phone, because I have a OnePlus 7 Pro. But when I'm working out, I'm most likely going to use my X4s, because that's what their intended purpose is, for working out, going to the gym, sweat resistance, and, a good shebang. But, and then I also have the application to, drive them, make them sound better, work on the EQ. And then I can do the same thing with my Bullets Wireless, is work on the EQ and the settings of the phone. But with the AirPods, in terms of people that like, that have Apple products, as I've used AirPods before, I've used the 2nd gen and the 1st gen. I've used them both on my iPad Pro when taking calls, like, being honest, that's what I used with Juan when we were doing most of the episodes together. That, and Juan grilled me for that. He's like, you keep using those AirPods, bud. I'm like, I know. But it's kind of the same thing as, like, it's just that convenience factor, because it kind of gets to you, because it's crazy, because it's just, they just open the case, go, and you can start the call, and they sound great. The microphone picks up everything really clearly. But I know for a lot of people, sound quality is, we keep going back to it, and it's just crazy, because sound quality, it's just what I always tell people is, like, it's just not that good. It's like casual listening, like that's all they're really good for, is just casual listening and, just listening like to music, even though, yes, it's not that good. And I know some people say they use the AirPods for working out, which I'm like, wouldn't recommend it.
No.
But, I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, I mean, they're better. The pros are better for it if you're gonna do it because they at least do have the IPX4 rating on them, so they are resistant. But it all depends on how well they'll stay in your ear. For a lot of people, they do stay fine. Like in my ears, these stay perfectly fine, so they resolve that problem for me. But I mean, for working out, people might want to go with Jaybird or Jabra or even the Powerbeats Pro if they want to stay in that system. But yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, they are the original AirPods are really good for casual listening. The AirPods Pro, they step it up a notch. You actually get very, very good sound quality out of them. They have a really underrated adaptive EQ for different types of genres. So I was very impressed with that. But like I said, it's still not the best out there, but they do a really good job. I don't know about using them for audio editing, monitoring, stuff like that. That's just I'm not accustomed to their sound signature for when I edit video, so I still I'll use wired. Like if I'm going to edit with the iPad, I'll run a dongle and run it that way. But my iPad, I don't need it. Mine's an older Pro, so it still has a headphone jack, so I can wire my headphones straight into it. But yeah, that's the way that I'll run it because there's a certain set of headphones that I like to edit with. I'm accustomed to the way they sound. I know how, when I edit with those, I know what my audio is going to sound like. And when I don't, it comes out sounding weird. So it's like, but
it confuses you, it tricks you.
Yeah. So you're like, wait, okay, so it sounds like this, or I'll think I have enough bass and it won't, or the EQ just sounds off. So I want to make sure that I stay consistent. And I'm not saying you couldn't do it with the AirPods, but I would give it a second pass with a good set of headphones before you hit publish, because it's like just make sure, man, because I wonder if that adaptive EQ could throw off your monitor or what you're listening to. You know what I mean? Because it self adjusts. So yeah.
And like going on that point, because I did want to talk about that a little bit, because it's the same thing it's the same argument I have with people. Like the easiest thing when I think of editing and mixing and everything, the easiest pair of headphones are like, because obviously we're talking about earbuds, but if we want to, dabble a little bit in headphones, the most controversial pair of headphones are the Audio-Technica ATH M50Xs. Yep. Those are, for a lot of people, very controversial because a lot of people love them, but a lot of people hate them just as much. Yep. And, it's split down the middle, because for listening to music, they sound incredible. For editing and, tracking, a lot of professionals hate them, because professionals, and I'd say even us, because, doing a lot of editing and working with audio, that flat signatures are preferably, because it's the most accurate, to what we're actually saying. And, and obviously there's differentiation, because, everybody likes using different headphones, like you even said it yourself, that there's a specific headphones you like using and you're accustomed, like, what to expect. And me, there's a little bit of a learning curve, because I'm mostly used to my 280 Pros, like editing and doing everything. And it's taking a little bit of a learning curve to get used to the 770s, because one, like, yes, my motherboard can't really, or the motherboard on my computer can't really drive them as well, even though they still sound incredible, like still using them. But I also know when I'm editing that it sounds lower than what I expect, but it's still, but I know just by remembering and using the Sennheiser that I'm like, okay, I know how this sounds. I remember how this sounds in my head. And I'm used to it because I know the patterns. With the AirPods, that adaptive EQ is definitely a scary thing, because it's a nice feature, especially for people that like casual listening and, listening to music and just going on the go. It's a great, phenomenal feature. Yeah. But when we want to dabble and start saying that you can do more and use them for editing audio and, et cetera, that it becomes a little bit of a scary thing, because it's not something you have a control of. It's something that just, it can go on a dime and do whatever it wants. Yeah. And it can trick you. And sometimes if you're not careful and you're not, being active and being active and paying attention to what you're doing, it could pretty much screw up what you're working on. And you may not realize it until it's too late. And I think that's what a lot of people, especially, got on my grill on, because, I haven't said, like I mentioned this before, that a lot of people got mad at me when I did my original video, because that I had a very strong opinion towards them. It's not saying that I hate the AirPods Pro, because I don't hate them. Like, I don't, and I'm assuming neither do you. Well, no. We don't hate them. But it's just, we have to be at least try to be as objective as we can and be critical and be honest with ourselves, because there are limitations. And I think it just mainly goes back to the whole thing with like slapping Pro on it too, because like I know a lot of people have talked about this, like slapping Pro on everything nowadays just seems like the new norm. Because let's think about it, like Pro headphones or Pro phones or like Pro tablets, and we just slap it on everything. And it seems to lose its luster a little bit. Like, I don't know, where do you stand on that one, Jefe?
But on the Pro labeling?
Yeah, on the Pro labeling.
So it's weird, man, because for most, like when you're looking at them in the audio type of stuff, outside of Apple, just everybody else, for the most part, when they do Pro, they're talking about studio monitoring or something like that, and it usually holds up. Like, for instance, the DT770 Pro or the 880 Pro or the 990 Pro, so it sort of stands up to what you're talking about there. With Apple, it's a little weird because for Apple, it seems like the Pro name is usually to denote their top tier product in whatever that category is. So it's a little odd the way that they do it. But sometimes it also means both that, their top tier product, and professional, like when you talk about like the Mac Pro, itself, that beast. So, but when you're talking about iPad Pro or MacBook Pro or AirPods Pro, iPhone Pro, I mean, it's just like, to me, it's a little funky, but that they can call it whatever they want. But I think it can be confusing for certain people. But I look at it like when they use the word Pro, they're just basically saying this is our top tier of this product category. Not that it's professional or for professional use, but this is just our top tier. It bugs me a little bit, because everybody's throwing Pro at everything now, which is just like, come on, man. But people are going to do what they want to do. I mean, if Apple makes that move, a lot of people are going to follow that move. And when they called them the AirPods Pro, I was just like, come on, man. They should have called them something different, but
they could have thought of something else. And
yeah,
because to be honest, we all knew the AirPods Pro were coming eventually. Like, we didn't think they would call them the AirPods Pro, but we knew there was going to be some top of the line version that's going to have active noise canceling and everything. And that's actually funny because we still haven't even talked about the active noise canceling part too, because that's kind of a nifty little thing. But I've noticed that a lot of people seem to have some issues, and that's why we'll go into it after this point.
Sure.
But that it's so crazy to think about because, obviously, yes, in some of those instances, like if we want to specifically focus on Apple, yes, in their professional lineup, in professional use, there's only two things in their lineup that actually are meant for professional use. Obviously the MacBook, this new 16-inch MacBook Pro, which I've already talked about that before, and surprisingly, it's actually the first MacBook I actually recommend to anybody. Well, for your specific use case. And then obviously the Mac Pro, the beast itself, because, that thing is, that's definitely a professional use. That thing that should not be in the hands of average people because,
no way,
one,
man.
it's super expensive, but, for obviously professional in the professional category. And I know we seem like we're going a little bit off, but it kind of going to loop this back around. But that the Mac Pro, and I didn't actually say this in the video when I got a chance to do it, but the Mac Pro, in terms of the category it's in, it's actually very affordable in its category because there's obviously some Windows desktop, that are, professional, like high top tier professional workstations, and it's surprising the Mac Pro is actually cheaper and it's overall performing better for less money. Like we're talking about, like, I think it was comparing it to a Dell workstation tower. It was like $71,000, and it didn't have as many ports as the Mac Pro. It had good graphics card, just not enough storage, not enough RAM, and it was like $71,000. And the maxed out Mac Pro comes out to like $52,199, and I'm just like, huh. And then obviously, if we want to go with the AirPods Pro, obviously in comparison to the original AirPods, because they still sell both at the same time.
Right.
And they kind of make it very clear, is why they went with the design choices. Make a longer case, switch the design of the AirPods to show that this is a top of line version. This is the original. You can choose whichever one you want. And there are some perks with it, as we mentioned, the active noise canceling, the EQ. And I want to touch on that active noise canceling part because, obviously, nowadays you can't have top of the line Bluetooth anything like headphones, earbuds without active noise canceling of some kind, And I know some people have mentioned that they've had some issues with the active noise canceling where it actually seems like it messes with the audio. Like, I don't know. Do you want to talk about a little bit of your experience if you've ever had that? Or
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had it. To me, it hasn't been a problem. Sometimes, I mean, obviously there's going to be outliers and there's going to be people who, I've heard of people having defective issues with theirs. But for me personally, the only difference I notice, and this is a very common thing with active noise cancellation on Bluetooth, is that sometimes you will hear a slight change in sound quality. There'll be something. So last year or the year before, really cheap Bluetooth headsets, you turn active noise cancellation on and you would lose, you would basically lose all the bass out of your music. And that's because the active noise cancellation isn't being done correctly. It's not being implemented correctly. Newer headphones, let's go to the top, right? Like Sony XM3 or Sennheiser Momentum 3, or, you know, whoever's got them out right now, Bose and all them. They get it right. So you turn active noise cancellation on, you don't notice anything. For me, with the AirPods Pro, I only saw, from what I could hear, a very subtle, very slight dip in the mids. Like very, very slight, but you can barely notice it. I had to really, really listen to the right songs and then I can notice it. But beyond that, like I could switch between the modes and I barely notice it. So for me, the experience with the noise cancellation and sound quality has been fine. But I did mention it in my review video that there was ever so slight loss, but you really got to hear it. And most people wouldn't even notice it. So
yeah, and I think that's kind of funny too, because it's like, you know, like we even mentioned, is everybody's perspective is different. You know? Like everybody's going to hear things differently and everything. But, you know, in your video, you talked about how it wasn't so much, but for like other people's videos, they're like, oh, it's such a big deal. It just like you hear such a big dip. And I'm like, wow, that's, you know, it kind of proves the point is like everyone's going to hear things differently. And, you know, some people's ears are more sensitive, or, you know, like they'll be able to catch that much quicker than we can. Because I'm kind of like in the same boat as you, where it's like, if I really wanted to nitpick something so bad, like I would really have to be focusing and listening in and notice it. Yeah. Because sometimes I don't notice it, the change, unless if it's just blatantly obvious.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, you know, it's so crazy because, and I think mainly when I think about it now, even more with the AirPods, it kind of goes back to the same argument that a lot of people have is, you know, it's trying to justify our purchase, you know?
Yeah.
That, like, we're trying to justify why we bought what we did, and, you know, say that, oh yeah, it's, you know, this and this and this and this, even though you present all this and this and this, it still doesn't matter, because to me, like, all these things are more important than everything else. And, you know, and I think it's crazy because I think with the AirPods Pro, like, not only was it just randomly dropped on us, like just randomly out of nowhere, just update on the Apple website, bam, new AirPods.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people, I know even right now, I think they should be sold on the Apple website right now. I think the last time I checked, because I think my nephew was telling me about it, that his friend had ordered them a few days ago and they wouldn't be delivered until like mid-January. And I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah, they've been sold out on Amazon for weeks. So, yeah.
It's like, as much as people, you know, some people don't like them, the mass market loves them.
Yeah, no, they're selling like crazy.
And it's crazy because, you know, I wouldn't say it's impulse buying. I'm not going to go that far and say that, but I will say, you know, it's kind of like the Apple thing, because all this is limited in the Apple ecosystem. Because if you try using them with, you know, say an Android phone, all the special perks and connectivity and everything, you lose them and they just become a normal pair of, you know, Bluetooth earbuds.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's where it kind of goes crazy, because I know a lot of people compare them to the Sennheiser ones. They compare them to the Sony ones. And I know that's mainly mostly every review I've seen about the AirPods Pro, it's always been comparing them to those Sonys.
Yeah, that's why I went the other way. I went the other way with that one.
You went the other way.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of great. Like, what did you end up doing with that? Because I know, like, obviously everyone does AirPods in the specific Sony ones, but like, what did you end up doing on that one?
No, I ended up putting up against a set of earbuds that were $100 cheaper MSRP, which were the Soundcore Liberty 2 Pros. And in my opinion, the Soundcore Liberty 2 Pros, they win for all the categories that I prefer. They win. So that was me, and they were $100 less. When I made the video, they were actually $140 less. So yeah. So that's the thing, man. So, but it all depends on what you need out of them. But everybody was going the Sony route, I didn't want to go the Sony route. You know, it was just like, okay, it's the most obvious because they're both right around the same price, within $30 of pricing with each other. And they both have active noise cancellation. That's what everybody was harping about. And the thing is, here's the thing. ANC is very nice to have. With the AirPods Pro, it works very well. For a set of earbuds, it's very surprising. It can actually be improved upon, which I did with some memory foam ear tips, which actually did help. But with the Soundcore Liberty 2 Pros, the sound quality is so good, and just have it once you fit those earbuds in correctly with the correct tips, it's like you don't miss the active noise cancellation because it sounds so good. You're not hearing anything else. You know what I mean? You're hearing nothing but the music. So it's like it really, once you actually are listening to them, it's like, what, you know, I don't miss it. So is it a nice perk to have? Sure, if you're on an airplane or whatever, cool. But to be completely honest, it's not a deal breaker for me. So
yeah, and I think in my case, you know, because I don't like, I'm kind of just a person, like, I don't really like earbuds that much. Like, I never really liked the Apple earbuds design to begin with. Like, it's not that they didn't fit in my ears, it just kind of feels a little bit uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And like, as time went by and I finally started getting better equipment, or, you know, as my friend told me, now you're being an audiophile, I was like, oh, okay, so I really shouldn't care that much about my earbuds. But, you know, I still got a nice pair of earbuds. You know, my first good pair were my Jaybird X3s, and then, well, when I bought them the next week, the X4s came out, so I returned the X3s, bought the X4s.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously recently I just bought the Bullets Wireless 2 for my OnePlus 7 Pro because they were on sale for like, I think they were on, I got them for like, well, with shipping and everything, I got them for like $88, and I was like, yeah, definitely a good buy for me. And even though I know right now, for like anybody that wants to buy a OnePlus 7, if you want, I think it's the OnePlus 7T right now, that they're giving, that if you buy OnePlus 7T, they'll give you a free pair of Bullets Wireless 2 with the purchase. You know, I think that's kind of, for anybody that, you know, interested in that, you can just go do that. But
nice,
which I think that's a steal. Which I think
it's good news for me, man, because that means there's gonna be a lot of people selling those earbuds for cheap. Because I'm still looking for a set, man. I'm just not. I don't want to pay full price for them.
That's why I said when I saw them for $79.99, I was like,
yeah,
and just pay for the shipping, I was like, oh yeah, I'm buying that.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was nice, but I love these earbuds, and you know, even though yes, they started at $100, I like them more than the AirPods. When like I use my friend's AirPods.
Oh, for sure.
I just like these more because not only do they sound better, and you know, because the connectivity thing, like connectivity is a big thing. The microphones, maybe not as good, still good, but not as great as the AirPods, because I think Apple has done an incredible job with, you know, the whole science behind that and getting it to work.
Yeah.
But I think overall for like sound quality, it's so much better. And they don't have active noise canceling. Like they just reject wind because the music sound, I'm just so focused on the music and like listening it. Yeah, I have to go in the EQ and, you know, mess with it to my personal preference. But it's just really nice when you're just like not caring about it. And even my like I mentioned when I did my review over the LG V50, thanks to Juan, like just driving my Sennheisers to their full potential, it was crazy. And I was like, these are studio monitors, but they sound like just incredible fully driving them. I wish I had my DT770s at that time, because I would have loved to drive those things.
Yeah, it would have done it. It would have done it too, because the quad DAC drove my my Sennheiser HD6XX no problem. So yeah.
Like, and that's funny because obviously my 770s are the 80 ohms, not the 250 ohms, but that's, you know, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
But I think with the AirPods, it's crazy because I always have this stigma towards them. And, you know, I even mentioned this, like most of my friends on the college campus, like they all know that they're not, like AirPods are not incredible, if they're not this, you know, top of the line thing. Like they're expensive, but they're not the best of the best, but they don't care because it connects very easily. It does what they need them to do, like easily just take phone calls and listen to music. And I know some people get on my grill because they're like, oh, you can do more with them. And I'm like, maybe, you know, like it's, you know, it's objective, but at the same time, if we want to be objective and, you know, at least be as objective as we can be, because we obviously can't be fully objective because our opinion sometimes will get in the way, but you know, it's just the reality is that's kind of how it is. Like they're great when you only keep them in the Apple ecosystem, but when you start going out of there and you start exploring more options, they lose a lot of their luster, because we have to be fair, you know, we have to, you know, balance them out. And it's also, like we also mentioned, in terms of the Apple category, if we want to focus on the Apple ecosystem specifically, there's also the Beats Power Pro. Those things are also in there as well. And it's like, you know, they naturally have competition. And obviously the Beats have a much better fit, more secure, you know, obviously better IP rating because, you know, they're meant for working out, but they also sound good because, you know, Beats seems like they finally, you know, figured out how to make them sound good, even though, yes, they're also Beats, and audiophiles have a very strong opinion about Beats. That's probably never going to change. Well, probably. Yeah, I'm not going to. Yeah, probably not. But I think it's interesting, you know, because like you mentioned, like how long have you actually had the AirPods Pro? Like how long have you had them?
Oh, I got them since day one. So as soon as they were available for purchase in the store, so I went the same day to pick them up. So
it's like what, been like a month, right? They came out like November 2nd, or was it October? End of October?
I think it was end of October, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it was end of October because I think people were getting them shipped like October 30th or something like that. And but as soon as they said, "Oh yeah, you know, you can get them in the store," I just drove over there and picked them up. So got them from the very beginning, and I've been vetting them this whole time. Still testing them, still using them multiple times a week. So so far so good. I mean, I've been trying to kind of long-term test them. I don't know if I'll do an actual long-term video on them, but it's mostly for the fact that people still ask me a lot of questions about them. So that's one of the main reasons why I decided to keep them around, because I was going to return them, but they impressed me far more than I had expected. And I think I would be not only doing myself a disservice, but the people in my audience, especially when it comes to comparing them, because despite the fact that they're not, in my personal opinion, the best out there, people, the general like population, you know, average consumer type people, consider them a benchmark. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of have to keep them around for that. And at least for microphone quality, they definitely are. Like they set the standard for mic quality that everybody has to reach. Not for sound quality, but for microphone quality for sure. So yeah.
I think we can agree on that because, you know, it's like you said, is like it kind of even loops because I've even been saying the same thing. Is like everyone treats them as the benchmark for headphones. Like when you think of earbuds, everyone always thinks of the AirPods. They jump to them no matter what. Like they've never heard the Sonys, they've never heard the Zen. They've like, what are these things? Like never heard of them. The only thing that comes to mind is AirPods. And you know, it's kind of like we even said the same thing. Like right now they're selling hotcakes because the general consumers are like, new AirPods, these are the top of the line. When you have these, you know, everyone knows you got bread, and if you don't have them, you're poor. And it's like, you know, because I even said it's kind of like my opinion a little bit on the Apple products, where I say it's kind of like it's like a social status symbol. That's kind of how I view them. Even though, yes, I'll admit, I'll be fair and objective, I don't like using iPhones that much, but I will admit the new iPhone 11 and the 11 Pros are phenomenal, very exceptional. Obviously, I do consider them in the top of the food chain this year for smartphones, because Apple really shocked everyone with how good they came out. Like incredible battery life, great cameras, you know, both those things very good, and you know, giving the Pixel a run for its money on the camera. Obviously, in terms of video, iPhones will always be, you know, they'll always be ahead, unless we want to include the manual controls on the V50 and the Sony Xperias, which, you know, then we have a much different ball game. But I think it's just, in general, it's just a status symbol, because, you know, like when people see that you have them, they're like, oh yeah, they're definitely, I wouldn't say cool, but because that's weird to say that nowadays, but like, they got bread. And like, and that's why I always tell people when I see AirPods, I always make this joke. It's like, I always say the douche pods. That's kind of, and like, I remember even Juan was laughing when I said that, because he's like, I never thought about that, but it's actually true when you think about it. Yeah. Because a lot of people just flex on, like they just flex on people.
No, it's true. Crazy. You'll see a lot of kids even walking around with them, and they don't even have any battery. You know what I mean? But they just have them on.
And I think it's just funny because you said kids, and I'm like, I agree with that. And I'm like, I'm barely almost about to turn 20 years old, and I'm literally calling people kids. I'm like, man, I'm starting to feel old.
Well, I mean, because for me, man, just the way where my work takes me, I always end up being really close to school zones. So I end up seeing all kinds of kids, and I always see them wearing them. And to me, it's funny because it's always either AirPods non-Pro or Beats headphones, Solo, Studio, whatever it is. So all the time. And to me, I'm just like, wow, that's literally, it's just about flex. Like even if they're not listening to anything, like I'll see people, like I've seen kids wearing Beats headphones and they're just sitting there holding a conversation while they have them on their head. And I'm like, it's just a flex, you know what I mean? It is what it is. I mean, that is for people. That's not my style, but that's just how people are, man. And I get it, man. And what's funny is the only way that I'll flex on people is when they see the iPhone. Like they'll see my iPhone, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you have the iPhone 11, blah blah blah. What do you think? You really like it? This and that." And then at the same time, I'll pull this out. At the same time. So I'm like, I've got the Pixel 4 as well. So it's like I carry both with me. I carry both phones with me. I carry the AirPods, and I carry a separate set of true wireless earbuds that I'm testing that week. So it's like I always have both, and then people kind of trip out on that. And I'm like, why do you have both? I'm like, because I like to experience both sides at the same time. Yeah. So that's what I'm doing, and I live my life that way, and I like it, man. I like having both options because they both have their strengths and weaknesses, and it's just the way that I roll. There's a lot of other people. I'm actually surprised at the amount of people that actually do the same thing I'm doing. So I don't know if that's just a YouTube thing, but we like to have both options, man. Because I was just Android for the longest time, and then shout out to Jonathan Morrison for pulling me into the Apple ecosystem, and now I'm trapped.
Yeah, I love that, brother.
Yeah, but I'm still, but I still have my Androids. I still rock my PC. That's how I'm streaming right now. So it's but they both have, like I said, the strengths and weaknesses, and I use them both. So.
Yeah, it's like even when talking to Juan, and I've talked about it multiple times, like I'm not against going back into Apple's ecosystem, because originally, before I even started doing the show and everything, everyone always known me as the guy that really smart about tech, is really tech savvy, but just has a very strong opinion against Apple and will never recommend it to anybody.
Yeah.
And I've admitted that. I've gone on record and said that multiple times before I even did the show. That's how I was. As time went by, and especially when getting the iPad Pro, because I got my 10.5 inch like last year, or actually this year. I can't even say last year, like this year. It was going into this year when I got it that I was like, okay, this is nice. I like this, and I started to get more used to it, and I'd be more comfortable and started to advocate for it because, and like same thing with you is like I shout out Jonathan a lot because. Not only did Jonathan is kind of the reason what get me in this conflicted spot with the Mac Pro, but also in the same thing with the iPad Pros, and also watching a lot of Henny and like seeing how Henny is doing all his work on the iPad and just how much success he's had on it.
Yeah,
and it's so crazy because as much as I always bash Apple because there are some bad decisions, clear there's some bad eggs in there. Like
yeah, of course,
obviously like when the 2018 MacBook Pros when they came out, terrible, just.
Yeah.
Terrible, like butterfly keyboards is terrible, and yes, the 2019 revision of that MacBook came out still bad because obviously, like I've said this multiple times, the laws of physics don't care. Like that thing is not gonna run cool. I don't care how much you optimize it. That's not how the laws of physics work.
Yeah.
And obviously that's why they made the 16 inch and they listened.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where they went with the AirPods Pro a little bit too. Is they listened, but I think it's also like. It's give or take, because it's not going to be perfect for everyone. There's not going to be some perfect product that just works for everybody, and it's going to be great because that's just not how it. That's not just how it works. That's why we always have options, because there's always something nice about the other side, and I think in my case, like I like using Android primarily. Like my primary phone is a OnePlus 7 Pro. Yeah. Many people don't like the OnePlus 7 Pro. And that's cool, Obviously, when I take it out in public and I'm with my friends, they see the camera, they're like, whoa, what the heck is that thing? And I'm like, yeah, this is my my phone. I explain it and everything, and they're like, oh, cool. And obviously, they got their iPhone Pro Maxes, and some of them with the XS Max, which rip. I feel bad for them because not that many people like the XS Max. But I think like going with the AirPods, it's. I always say like I think in the Apple ecosystem. Even in the Apple ecosystem, yes, they're competing with the Beats Pro because they're in the same price.
Right.
And outside of it, you do have options. And I think that's where we have to be at least honest and fair that, yes, these are definitely a good contender for some great wireless earbuds, truly wireless. Even though, yes, I agree that there's some very, very severe health concerns that a lot of people have with truly wireless because of how the signal is being transmitted going through your head. But, that's why I always advocate more for the neckband design because, it's, safer because that's how current's going to go. It's going to go from one earbud, go through the neck and go through the, the neckband and go to the other ear. And obviously with truly wireless, it's a little bit funky because, you know, signal goes from your phone to one earbud, and then to get to the other earbud, it has to go through your head, and you know, a whole lot of health concerns. We can have a discussion about that another day, but
yeah, they're changing that with the new chipsets too.
Yeah, which is nice because, you know, I don't think, you know, being honest, I don't think anybody wants brain cancer. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think anybody wants that.
Yeah, a lot of the new ones are doing this dual connect stuff, so they're both connecting to your phone simultaneously, so that you can put one away and still keep using the other one, and then you can swap them, and it's like very seamless. And so they're starting to do that sort of thing, which is kind of cool too. But it makes it a little more complex, and it makes them a little more expensive. But either way, I mean, there's still a lot of concerns.
It's also that nice thing you even mentioned as, like, you know, the more complex things get, the more they're going to charge. And, you know, it's the same thing Juan always said is, you know, like, oh, more premium parts inside of our products, and they're charging more money. I'm like, you know, and obviously he's being sarcastic, but it's like, well, that's kind of the whole point is, like, it's the same thing between the comparison with the OnePlus 7 Pro and the 7T is, while the 7T does have a better processor, it doesn't have, you know, it doesn't have the heat pipe in it.
Yeah.
So, you know, and that's why the 7 Pro is more expensive, because it has the heat pipe, it has more storage, you know, and, you know, bigger display, you know, et cetera, nicer parts.
Yeah.
And I think with the AirPods Pro, if we want to compare them to the original AirPods, yes, there clearly is a difference.
Oh yeah.
We're not gonna stand here and say that there isn't, because we'd sound delusional if we started going down that route.
Yeah.
But because there's a difference, you know, obviously with the new tips, you know, obviously with the active noise canceling, you know, the active EQ, you know, the much better sound profile. But I think it's just interesting because, you know, this isn't a conversation that's just like as black and white as we want it to be, you know, because it's not black and white. It's a gray area, you know, because it's kind of what I always tell people is, like, you have to listen to multiple sides of a perspective, and, you know, the truth is somewhere in the middle. Like, it's somewhere in the middle. It's not like, unless if it's just some very obvious situation, like, this is clearly bad, this is clearly good, you know, like, unless if it's something like that. But in this situation, you know, with comparing headphones and audio, because audio, like we already mentioned, audio is very subjective, that, you know, there's truth in the middle, and it's just figuring out, you know, what is it, you know?
Yeah.
But also being mindful, it's like not everyone is the same. Like, everybody's ears are different, and people are going to hear things differently.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was the tough line that I had to walk. My last video that I put out, which is doing really well, and it's actually been received very well, which I was very surprised. Where I did the AirPods Pro versus the Liberty 2 Pro. The Liberty 2 Pro. But I really stuck to my guns on the fact that right in the beginning, I say, I'm here to tell you which one is better for you. And in the video, I talk about, you know, what's good about these, the strengths and weaknesses of both, which one does what better, you know, who has better battery life, who has a better sound quality, who has a better connection, you know, that stuff. And then when I get into the portion where I talk about my personal opinion, I talk about, for myself, this is what I prefer based on these criteria. Your criteria might be different. So I leave it up to the viewer to decide what is best for them, because they have to make this decision. Sadly, there's a lot of people who come to my videos to look for somebody to tell them what to buy. And I usually, you know, when they ask me those questions, I try to guide them as best I can, but I won't make the decision for them. Because there's a lot of people who don't want the responsibility of buying something, because then if they don't like it, they'll come back and be like, oh, this is what you told me to buy. I'm like, no, I gave you the best advice I could give you. You still have to ultimately take responsibility for your purchases. But all I can do is help you make the right decision. And those two products, while both are true wireless earbuds, and probably the best sort of in their categories, they're for two completely different people. Because the Liberty 2 Pros excel in certain areas, and they're just sort of missing some of those extra bells and whistles. Whereas the AirPods Pro have all the features you could want, but they're more like a jack of all trades, because they're not exceptional in any one category, but they're very good across the board. So that's one of those things where it's like, okay, you know, it depends on what you need. And it's tough to walk that balance, man, because you try to keep it as objective and as unbiased as you can. But I'm thankful that people got that message when they watched the whole video. They got the complete context of what I was trying to do. It worked out really well. So I was really happy about that.
I think in my case, you know, that's why I always tell people is, like, I may not be the biggest like fan, like obviously of Apple products. Like I'm obviously not hating them anymore. Like I wouldn't say it's just blatant hate.
Yeah.
Like I know one of my friends is, and you know I'm not gonna shout him out because he's gonna come get me later. But you know, it's kind of like it changed my opinion a little bit. Like the iPad is what changed my opinion. Is like, look, there's clearly some gems in the Apple ecosystem. Clearly, I do believe there's some gems. Like to me, obviously, until Android finally makes good tablets, the iPads will always reign supreme.
Oh, for sure.
You know, specifically in professional tablets, you know, well, not really a professional tablet, but high-end tablets. Like, yes, the iPad Pros are exceptional, and that's why Apple, you know, they don't really upgrade them in like every 2 years. Like, we're expecting a new upgrade this year, and well, going into 2020, we know in theory there should be an upgrade because normally they upgrade them every 2 years. The only exception was the 2016 model, the 10.5 inch, because it got updated in I think it was 2017 with the 10.5 inch that they re-updated with the black bezels, and obviously that was the updated version, the second generation iPad Pro.
That's the one I have.
Obviously,
yeah.
You have that one, and then obviously I had that one.
Yeah.
And then I bought my 11 inch iPad Pro, which is obviously the 2018 upgrade.
Right.
But aside from that I do believe there's some gems, and I think Apple is onto something with the AirPods. Now, do I think that Apple will eventually put AirPods with the iPhones, especially with the whole, now that they have the Pros and now they have AirPods to sell separately, and they could probably just put the original AirPods in like iPhones? Do I think that will happen? Probably not.
No.
Knowing Apple, probably not, because it's definitely going to raise the price of the iPhones for sure. They're not going to still sell them at $1,000 and
no way.
Give you no way, bro. They make too much money off it.
Yeah, that's the thing. They wouldn't. Could they do it? Yes. Will they? No. They won't do that.
They could.
Yeah,
they won't.
No, they're not going to.
And even if with the Pros too, because as much as because we're not dogging on the Pros, and I hope nobody comes away from this video as like, just, oh, Josh is just proving his point, that he made in the last video or last episode, because not really videos, because everyone knows I don't use videos in these episodes. But it's not just trying to prove my point, because it's not really proving my point. It's just, if anything, it proves my point of like, I'm letting you guys decide. Like, I'm letting you know what my preference is, and my preference, I've stated it. I only believe that the AirPods Pro are only good for, or just AirPods in general, that they're only good for just taking calls, casual listening, and convenience. That's their main selling point. That's why people buy them, and they buy them a lot. Because, and obviously if we want to go into the right to repair and things like that, we can have that kind of discussion, and I feel like somebody wants me to get somebody to come talk about that, because he's got a lot to say. I'm not even referring to Juan. I think most people are trying to get me to try to see if I can get Louis Rossman. I'm like, oh boy, that episode's not going to be PG for sure.
no way.
It won't be.
But it's definitely a gray area, man, and that's the key, man. Because having the conversation with you, and I listened to your podcast about the other ones as well, the previous podcast and stuff. So to me, it doesn't, you don't come off as an Apple hater or anything like that to me personally. And then speaking to you now in this conversation, all it does is prove further the fact that it's a huge gray area, and it really comes down to what you need out of this particular type of product. So for you, it may not be a good fit. For me, I like them. I've kept them. But if I had to choose between them and, 4 or 5 of my other ones that I have on my desk, I'm probably going to go with the other ones because of my personal preferences. So, and that's the thing. And it trips people out, because I do a lot of true wireless earbud reviews. But then people, when they'll see me wearing wired earbuds or wired headphones even. And then they're like, what the heck? Like, I'll post a lot of pictures on social media of me wearing, like the Sennheisers or my Fostex or whatever it is, and they're just like, what the heck? Like, where's the true wireless? And I'm like, if I'm chilling at my desk, you think I'm going to be wearing wireless earbuds? Like, come on, man. And I try to tell people, for me, ultimately, sound quality. Ultimately. And that's where I go. Bluetooth hasn't caught up, so I'm running wired stuff. So, but there's a gray area, because it depends on what you need. It's all about exactly what your use cases is. I'm not going to use unless I'm cleaning my house, I'm not using wireless. So at home, when I'm out and about, oh, for sure. Dude, I carry 2 sets of true wireless earbuds with me, and I still have a set of actual Bluetooth headphones in my bag. So like, I have my options ready to go at any given moment. So, but when I'm at home, like I said, it really comes down to what you need and exactly the type of tool. We choose the best tool for your needs is really what it comes down to. Yeah.
And I think I even use this, to be honest, I use the same rationale in my own head because, that's kind of how I always like using things for specific cases. Like, obviously, like I mentioned, I use my Sennheisers for tracking and recording the show with my Zoom recorder, because my Zoom recorder can actually drive my Sennheisers. My 770s, now I use them for editing the show and also, playing games on my computer and listening to music on the computer. And then when I'm on the go and traveling, I use my Audio-Technica M50Xs. That's what I decided to start using them for.
Yeah.
Now, when I'm walking about campus and everything, because if anybody that knows Texas Tech is a really big campus, and I usually spend like about 20 plus minutes walking, or if I'm walking somewhere and just clearing my head or doing something, and I just put on my earbuds and just walk. And then if I go to the rec and work out, I use my X4s. And if I am just walking about campus going to class, I use my my Bullets wireless, because that's why I bought them, is for convenience, just walking around. And but I always like having something set specifically for each task.
Yeah.
They're like, everything is being used, but in its specific use case, and it won't go outside of that use case. I like having things that way. And I think for me, especially when I do use the AirPods, when I'm like doing a call with something on, with my iPad, I would, go use my friend's AirPods and he'll let me use them. And I just like them because it's just quick and easy. Just take one out, pop it in, and go from there. And then if that one dies, put it back in, put the other one, keep going. And it's what I tell people is like, it's always, what do you need them to do?
Exactly.
And I always ask people that question. What do you want this to do? Like, what are you trying to accomplish with this? And, we go from there and we break it down. We look at options. If there's some recommended spec list that it needs to follow, then we go there. Like, if we're working with computers, but with headphones, what do you want them to do? Like, do you want earbuds or headphones? Okay. You want earbuds, do you want truly wireless? Do you want wired? And then once we go down Bluetooth or wired, then, we go truly wireless or neckband, et cetera. And we keep going down and break it down until we get to, our options. And then from there, I let the person choose, and I don't, because I don't tell them what to do. And like, it's really crazy, because it's the gray area. And I think a lot of people, and I wouldn't say this is like just a guy thing or a girl thing. I'm just saying this is just human nature in general. It's like, we don't like not knowing the answer, like, if it just freaks people out, because they're like, we want to know, like somebody has to justify our rationale. And it's like, and I always tell people, you got to learn to live with the consequences of your actions, whether they be good or bad. If you can't live with the decision, don't do it.
Yeah.
And and I think, and obviously that can be applied to many things, but in this specific case, if you aren't feeling so comfortable at the purchase, then don't do it. Like, make the purchase when you feel comfortable. If you know that no matter what anyone tells me, like, I am comfortable because this is what I wanted. And if you're not that confident, then don't pull the trigger.
Exactly.
And I think that to me is my main takeaway from this, and that's why I wanted to do a bigger discussion with the AirPods Pro, because I know a lot of people wanted me to not just explain my rationale and have more time to explain it, but also like have somebody else's perspective, and to show that, hey, this isn't just my way of thinking. This, like, there's many people that have this kind of rationale.
Yeah.
And I don't know, is there any closing thoughts you have, Jefe?
Well, I mean, like I said before, I mean, they're great at what they do, and they're great for somebody who just needs a solution that they feel will cover most of their bases. Casual users, I mean, it's an awesome choice, especially if you are an iPhone user or in the Apple ecosystem. Of course, this is the way that you're probably going to want to go. But otherwise, choose the right tool for the job. There's a lot of people who only want one thing to do everything. And this might be a good choice for them, as far as just kind of, okay, this will get those things done for you in a decent fashion. But if you want the best for every category of your life, then you're going to have to get different tools for the jobs. That's what it comes down to. Are the AirPods Pro perfect? No. Are they the best thing on the market? Also no. But they are good. And we kind of got to give credit where credit is due. Apple made huge improvements as far as the qualities go. There's still other aspects of Apple and right to repair and disposal and batteries, and there's a whole nother discussion around that as well. But they've made some big improvements to make them a better product, and I appreciate what they've done. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, I like them. but they're not my favorite, but I do like them. But that's pretty much where I have to leave it.
Yeah, pretty much. That's all we can do, really.
Yeah.
We, like I said, is we can't tell people what to do. We can give our recommendations. We can, I think it's because that's just how most people are. Like, I wouldn't say there's just a YouTube thing where it's like when you watch a tech reviewer, like you always expect, a 100% answer, like just this is better no matter what. This will always be better, and just people are used to it. And then when you don't give them that, they're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
They get confused.
Yeah.
And I think that's just something that I'd say people don't like. They just have to think like that. They have to be more mindful, and I wouldn't say be more open-minded, but I'd say be more understanding of your surroundings. Understand the room you're in. Because there's many options in the room. There's not just one option is better than the rest. There's many good options, and they're all good at what they do. And that's, and obviously, yes, like it doesn't help that, yes, in terms of marketing everything, Apple obviously reigns supreme because they spend a lot of money on marketing and they always know how to present their products effectively and get the point across. And it doesn't help that a lot of other companies make great products, but they're not as good as advertising. Like, I personally haven't seen any ads for the Sonys. And the Sonys are the ones that are the main comparison. I've seen, and it's like it's kind of what leads people to like, okay, like I don't know this. Like, I know this company, I just never seen anything about it. Like, this company doesn't advertise, they don't talk about them. But for some reason, you're telling me they're better. Yeah. But Apple is advertising these things up the butt, and but you're telling me they're not as good. And like it's that whole thing where like people get confused.
Yeah.
But I think from there, it's pretty much where we can leave it because there is no definitive answer. That's not the point of this discussion. It's more of just breaking it down and understanding like why this is such a gray area. That's kind of let you guys decide what you want to do. If you want to buy the AirPods for Christmas this year, go right ahead. I'm not going to stop you. Like, if that's what you want to do, great. If you want to buy other earbuds and you want to talk about it, you can obviously go to Jefe's channel and go look up reviews for the headphones that he's broken down. You can come even message me, like, because I know a lot of you guys like talking to me and messaging me because I'm gonna get a lot of emails about this one.
Oh yeah, dude, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen, dude. Either way, there's gonna be people who disagree with the way how I feel about it. That's totally fine. I made a whole video about it being okay to disagree with me. So yeah, that's because I'm totally okay with that. People disagree with me all the time. That's totally fine. All I ask is that people keep it civil. You know what I mean? Keep it civil. It's okay to disagree because everybody can have their own opinions. So, but yeah, just keep it civil, man. If you guys are going to contact Josh here, man, just keep it civil, man.
Trust me. I think the one episode, if I'm being honest, this is a whole different thing. I think the one episode that I got a mixed bag, I would say like more good than bad, was like the Real Talk episode with relationships. Because trust me, some people came knocking at my door because of that one. Yeah. But a lot of people were encouraged. But it's like I always say is like, I that's kind of like why I like doing the shows, because I get to share my mind with you, because that's what you guys like, is you like it when I'm honest and I share what's on my mind. And with me, this is where I stand with the AirPods Pro. Is I think they're exceptional in some areas, but at the same time, I'm not going to say they're the best, and I'm not going to say they're the best. Period. No. I'm not going to go that far. I'm just going to say they're the best in some categories, and I'll agree in those categories. Aside from that, there's many options. Yeah. But I think that's pretty much all we can talk about. So I don't know. Like, obviously, like, thank you, Jefe, for coming on. I know it took a while to get this whole setup and everything.
It's all good, man.
Obviously, you're very busy, because I know you're busy. Like, you're not like as free as me, because, well, as a college student out on a break, like, there's nothing to do.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. Nothing to do. No, I'm living.
And then it gets worse.
I'm living the double life, man. So it's always busy, man.
Blame you, brother. But I thank you for coming on. It's definitely been fun, and obviously, like I told you guys, like I'm going to be leaving a link to Jefe's channel in the description. I'll also leave a link to Jefe's video that he talked about the AirPods Pro originally, because I saw it, and that's kind of what led me to make, generate more of my opinion, and But I hope you guys really enjoy. Like, again, thank you, Jefe, for coming on. Really appreciate it. But obviously, you guys already know this Friday's episode is going to be over the next Xbox, because a lot of people want me to talk about that now, because everybody knows I love Xbox and PlayStation sucks. But aside from that, I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you guys so much for your time. I really, really hope you guys take care. Don't do anything dumb until Friday. But I love you guys, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye, guys.
Peace.
Hey there. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.